Welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night is from ESPN Stats and Info. Excuse me. Tiger Woods finishes round one of the Genesis birdies on 16, 17, and 18. The only player in the field to do that with few groups left to play. It's the first time he's made 3 consecutive birdies on the PGA Tour since the final round of the 2020 Masters. Chris, those are some of the hardest holes on the tour. And for him not to play in 7 months and to make birdie, says a lot about Tiger Woods.
It does. I mean, he's the most, naturally gifted golfer maybe ever, although I'm sure people would say Dustin Johnson. They might not be wrong, but, I mean, he's up there in rarefied air in terms of pure skill. Even now at, 47 years old, he was bombing drives today, hitting them 300+. That's the difference between injuring your right knee and injuring your left knee. He can still push all that power through the swing, and that's really impressive that he has kept himself in that good of shape, Bob. Here's the one thing, though, that I always think that's kind of ominous. Somebody said you've got to savor days like this now when he's really on his game in a PGA Tour event, because and the implication behind saying savor it is there's a very good chance he just physically can't hold up to do this for 4 days or even 3 days necessarily. And that I guess for golf fans is the bummer. You try to grab onto it. Like you told me I'd grab onto all these parenting moments because they go too fast. Well, the sand is I'm serious, though. The sand is starting to slip through the fingers a little bit with Tiger's career as a serious competitor. And so I do think it's going to be an interesting test the next day or two, assuming he makes the cut, to see what kind of staying power he has.
No question about that. Before I go to the lines, I want to ask you something baseball related. The MLB came up with some of these rules, which I don't like. Number one is, making almost permanent now this, in extra innings, putting a guy on second base. And the reason I say that, I saw a game last year, Chris, which bothered me. It was the Brewers and the Reds. The Reds are at home. The Brewers are on the road. They put a runner at second. The first pitch of the top of the 10th inning was a wild pitch that not only got away from the catcher, but somehow bounced into the dugout. The guy from second scored. The pitcher then got out the next 3 guys. They lost the game because of one pitch, because of that situation. I hate that rule. I'm never going to like it. Your thoughts about it?
I mean, it's a beer league softball rule. It doesn't bother me that much because, let me rephrase that. It bothers me a little bit because I don't think people complain too much about like a 14 or 15 inning classic game when they happen, like the drama and the tension in the regular season, because they're usually few and far between. I'm actually choosing to focus on something that I think is going to be a positive change, Bob. I don't really care about the base size. I guess that's going to make it better. It's going to make it easier to steal bases and what have you and be safe at first base or whatever. But the pitch clock, I think, is going to be revolutionary. I think if the pitch clock shortens these games from like your average of 3 hours and 3 minutes last year down to like 2:35 again, and you can sit there 7:05 first pitch and by 9:40 the game is done, I think that would be a massive, massive positive step forward for baseball. And if the other net effect is pitchers maybe aren't as locked in and occasionally throw more bad pitches and there are more balls put in play, again, all the better there. I think that one is going to dwarf every other rule change as far as impacting the game, and it'll be in a good way.
Jeff in McMurray is our first caller tonight. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks.
Good. Was calling about the deadline here for the Penguins. I mean, you guys bring up interesting points. They really can. Who can they trade? And also what can they get back? I mean, you'd have to get back Mueller's vest from the East Palestine Railroad station there.
With regard to the Penguins and what they can give up, unless it's Gensel or Rust, and I don't see Gensel being traded, Chris, at all. Just because Sidney Crosby likes him, he likes being on that line, and it's not their problem. Their problem is generally bottom 6 people. But in the meantime, what can you give up?
So this is what I would say to that. Like, they're so star-oriented, the DNA of the franchise through multiple ownership groups and now with Fenway Sports Group. It's so hardwired and encoded to be stars, stars, stars. It's based on the stars. Like, I think the idea of trading a star player, one of your biggest names, to try to really fortify with a bunch of depth pieces, like lesser players, but that somehow maybe make you a better overall team, a deeper overall team, it's so against everything that this franchise has stood for basically my entire lifetime and then some, that I just think they're incapable of doing it. So I just don't even think that kind of a thing, which would shake things up, is even remotely on the table.
So let me ask you this then. If they play to their capabilities, let's say they get in as a wild card, And hopefully it's the first wild card, which would put them against Carolina, although Carolina right now is
I
a
want
really
no
good
part
team.
of them. I think they would smoke. I think they would smoke the
Well,
Penguins
either
in the
or.
series.
I mean, pick your poison here. You got them or Boston. What if the Penguins are playing their best? Do you think they can make a run through that first round series?
Yeah, because I mean, they're still laden at the top of the roster with some of the most talented guys in the league, and Crosby's still a top 5 player in the league, at least in my opinion. So they can make a run. Like if they're healthy and they're playing and they're on a hot streak, they can absolutely do it. But they are going to get exposed the longer they go through the playoffs if that does happen. Teams are just going to hammer their bottom 6 forwards, and then eventually all those older legs that are carrying the first 2 lines are just going to buckle under the weight. I mean, I think their only real path to get to the East Finals would be something like Jari comes back, is fully healthy, they're fully healthy, and he gets red hot in goal and steals a game or 2 in each of the first 2 series.
Yeah, I think that's the only way they can do it, quite frankly. If it's anything less than that, I don't think they're going to. And then they're going to be in a real quandary then what to do moving forward, because they've invested in these guys for several more years with no trade clauses and everything like that. It's going to be tough to figure out how to rebuild while you're trying to still compete, and I don't ever think that's a good medium to try to walk. Trying to do both, you can't do both. It's impossible to do both. So I think that's going to be a serious issue for them if that continues. Let's go out to Cal in Southside. Cal, how you doing?
Hey, good evening, guys. I was laughing. It is just like the beer league softball, putting a guy on second base. It reminds me of playing softball at Oil City growing up. But anyways, wanted to see what you guys thought about Jalen Ramsey possibly coming here, and also Pony's story that he ran on Menor Mitch getting punched in the face. It reminds me about as fake as Manti Te'o's girlfriend.
Well, listen, with regard to Jalen Ramsey, I want to start. I don't want Jalen Ramsey. There's great talent when he was at his prime.
You got to trade for him. Do people think that the Rams will just happily execute one of our best players? You can just throw us a couple crappy picks and we'll make that deal. That's echoes of the old Jose Tabata for Mike Trout, who says no kind of thing.
Right.
No, I mean the acquisition cost for Ramsey's too high. I just think that's not the Steelers' DNA. I don't know. I think you'd get necessarily lesser of a return than you might expect with him too. So I think they're going to try to find a cornerback in the draft. That makes me leery with their history at that position. And I wouldn't mind going after a Marcus Peters type. I do like that idea. Like, he's a talented, mercurial player. When he's on, he's still a lockdown corner. He's hyper aggressive, but I kind of like that kind of a risk other than saying, let's give up the farm for Jalen Ramsey.
I would agree with that, although I have my doubts about Marcus Peters just because I've seen him when he's off, when he's on. If he's motivated, fine.
He's a total space cadet. He's
Right.
a total space cadet, but he can play. When he is locked in, he is still one of the better corners.
So you're
in the league.
banking on the
There's no
fact
doubt
that as
about
a
that.
former Raven, he would be motivated to play in division.
Yeah, although that didn't work so well with Jacoby Jones now, did it? Even though he was at the end of the line. In fact, he might have ended up one day pulling off his Steelers jersey to reveal purple underneath, and I wouldn't have been surprised.
We're due for a break. We'll take it right now. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. We'll talk about that, and also Pitt taking on Virginia Tech coming up this weekend. Is this Pitt's situation to lose here? They got the ACC #1 seed right now. If they run the table, they are going to be the #1 seed. How far can they go beyond that? We'll talk about it when we come back right here with Chris Mueller. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.